February 14th, 1779. Valentine's Day. A man stands on a beach in Hawaii, surrounded by thousands of people who, just 4 weeks earlier, had worshipped him as a god. He has a musket. He has 9 Marines. They have clubs, spears, and daggers. He doesn't run. He turns his back to the crowd, raises his hand, and signals his boats to stop firing. It is the last order he ever gives. His name was James Cook. He was the greatest navigator in the history of the British Empire. He mapped 1/3 of the Earth's coastline. He discovered more land than any explorer before or since. And he died face down in a Hawaiian bay, stabbed with a dagger made from iron that he himself had traded to his killers. This is not a story about exploration. This is a story about a man who respected the world more than anyone and made one fatal mistake. James Cook was born in 1728 in a tiny village in Yorkshire, England. His father was a farm laborer. His family had nothing. In 18th century Britain, that was supposed to be the end of the story. You were born poor, you stayed poor, you died poor. But at 16, Cook got a job on a coal ship, and something happened to him on the water that never happened on land. He was good at it. Not just good, extraordinary. While other sailors learned the basics, Cook taught himself mathematics, astronomy, and the science of navigation. He stayed up nights studying charts by candlelight in the ship's hold. By his 20s, his captains were asking him for advice. In 1755, Cook joined the Royal Navy. 3 years later, he was given a task that would define his life. He was sent to chart the St. Lawrence River in Canada, a job so dangerous that senior officers refused it. Cook did it in 1 season. His maps were so accurate that the British Navy used them for the next 100 years. The Admiralty noticed. In 1768, they gave him a ship and the most extraordinary assignment in the history of British exploration. Go to the Pacific, chart what no European has ever seen, and bring back whatever you find. Cook was 39 years old, a farm boy from Yorkshire, with no family connections, no wealth, no advantages of birth. Just the best mind for navigation anyone at the Admiralty had ever seen. He said yes. What followed was 3 of the most remarkable voyages in human history. First voyage, 1768 to 1771. Cook sailed to Tahiti, charted the entire coastline of New Zealand, both islands completely, and then mapped the eastern coast of Australia. He returned to England having covered more ocean than any man alive. Second voyage, 1772 to 1775. He pushed into the Antarctic Circle, further south than any human being had ever gone. He sailed around the entire Southern Ocean to prove once and for all that the mythical Great Southern Continent did not exist. He returned, having sailed 60,000 miles in 3 years, the distance to the moon and back. But here is what made Cook different from every other explorer of his age. He didn't just map coastlines, he documented everything. Plants, animals, languages, cultures. While other European explorers arrived on foreign shores with guns and flags, Cook arrived with notebooks and artists. He brought scientists, he brought painters. He ordered his crew never to take anything from local people without permission and fair trade. When his men tried to steal from islanders, Cook punished them. By his second voyage, Cook was famous across the Pacific. Islands that had never seen a European knew his name. They knew he was different, that he listened, that he traded fairly, that he came in peace. And then came the third voyage, the one that would kill him. In January 1778, Cook's ships sighted a chain of islands that no European had ever recorded. Hawaii. He anchored. The locals came out in canoes by the thousands. Cook wrote in his journal, "I never before met with the natives of any place so much astonished." They traded, they talked. Cook moved on, north to Alaska, searching for the Northwest Passage. He found ice. He turned back. In November 1778, he returned to Hawaii, and this time he anchored in Kealakekua Bay, a place of deep spiritual significance for the Hawaiian people. His arrival coincided with Makahiki, the Hawaiian New Year festival dedicated to the god Lono, the god of agriculture, of peace, of sailing, whose symbol was a tall, cross-shaped object, exactly like a ship's mast. A crowd of 10,000 people gathered on the shore. As Cook stepped onto the beach, the priests led him to the temple of Lono. The crowd chanted his name and prostrated themselves. They believed, with complete sincerity, that James Cook was the god Lono returned to Earth. Cook was puzzled, but he was also pragmatic. He accepted the hospitality. He traded. He resupplied. He treated the Hawaiians with respect. And after 2 weeks, on February 4th, 1779, he left. He should have stayed gone. But 5 days out, a storm hit his ship. The foremast of the Resolution snapped. Cook had no choice. He turned around and sailed back to Kealakekua Bay. The Hawaiians who had cheered him 2 weeks earlier were not happy to see him return. In their theology, Lono came once per year with the Makahiki. A god who came back was a god who had broken the sacred order. Something was wrong. Tensions rose immediately. Hawaiians began stealing from the ships, small things at first, then larger. On the night of February 13th, they stole an entire longboat from the Discovery. This was the moment James Cook made the worst decision of his life. He decided to use a tactic that had worked before, in Tahiti, in New Zealand. He would go ashore, calmly, with a small escort, and take the Hawaiian king hostage, just until the boat was returned. He had done it before. It had always worked before. It would not work this time. On the morning of February 14th, 1779, Cook walked to the king's compound, woke him, held his hand, led him toward the beach, calmly, respectfully. The king, Kalani Opu'u, came willingly. But as they reached the shore, the king's favorite wife ran after him. She grabbed his arm. She begged him not to go. The crowd that had gathered saw everything, and the crowd understood what the Europeans did not. Their king was being taken. Thousands of people descended on the beach. Cook looked at his 9 Marines. He looked at the crowd. He made one more decision. He would not fire into the crowd. He signaled the boats to hold. He turned his back and walked toward the water. As he reached the shallows, a Hawaiian warrior stabbed him in the back of the neck with an iron dagger. An iron dagger, made from metal Cook had traded to the Hawaiians on his first visit. He fell forward into the water. He could not swim. James Cook, the man who had sailed 60,000 miles, drowned in 3 feet of water. He was 50 years old. The crew of the Resolution negotiated for the return of Cook's remains. What the Hawaiians gave back? Some bones, his skull, his hands, identified by a scar from an old injury. They buried him at sea, in the bay where he died. And the Hawaiians, who had killed him, performed the same funerary rites they reserved for their greatest chiefs. Because in the end, they knew what they had done. They had killed not an enemy, but someone extraordinary. Cook's maps defined the Pacific for the next 100 years. His scientific records, the plants, animals, peoples, languages he documented, are still studied today. And the standard of treatment he set for indigenous peoples, though imperfect, though of its time, was decades ahead of his contemporaries. He was a farm boy from Yorkshire who mapped a third of the earth. He was a naval officer who believed in listening before taking. He was a god to some and a mortal to all. And he died because of the one thing that had always saved him before. He trusted people. Maybe that was his greatest achievement. Maybe that was his fatal flaw. Maybe it was both. If this story made you see Captain Cook differently, drop a comment below. Hero, explorer, or something more complicated. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, stories about the people history almost forgot to tell you about, subscribe, because there are 100 more where this came from. The next one is already waiting.